So here we are, Hare Krishna, on top of Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi, and behind is Prabhupada's Pukur. This was here when I first came here. In 1976, I arrived here for the festival, ended up being drawn into the management of Mayapur, and ended up staying here. And so I've been here for now 76, almost 40 years. And we're seeing Mayapur grow in so many different ways. This is one of the ways. Here you see this was our pukur where we used to come here to swim in the hot season like now. The Ganges was much further away at that time. Although we still would go out. In the first year that I came here, this was 76, and this time, this hot May time, Jayapataka Maharaj used to take me and a bunch of us. We would go out with him to the Ganges, and we would swim across, and we would swim back. And we could do that without so much difficulty because it had not yet become the current that it is now because of the Faraka Barrage, which was built that year. So that's one of the changes, that the Ganges has changed. It's moved, as you may know, it's moved now back and closer to where it was in that time. Well, I've been here, it's moved almost to the road here, and it keeps moving. Let's see if it moves again. This Pukur was noted by Prabhupada. He wanted to have his house built here. In 1977, he commissioned, or the devotees commissioned a architect, Rajaram, who started designing his house, and then Prabhupada got sick. Rajaram was here to build his house right here, where Prabhupada's Samadhi was going to be Prabhupada's house in Mayapur. This was going to be his pukur, this was his house. So then Prabhupada got sick, and he was in Vrindavan. He said, if I leave in Vrindavan, you make my Samadhi here, and you make my Pushpa Samadhi in Mayapur, where my house was going to be. In fact, it's interesting. One interesting thing for everybody who may be thinking about why it takes so long to do master planning and why we need a master plan. Prabhupada was initially told us to wait on building his house until the master plan for Mayapur was done. He wanted to make sure it was in the right location in respect of the rest of the city. So he was very conscious of locating things properly in a master plan for Mayapur. So anyway, Prabhupada left, and he actually, just before he departed this world, he was feeling a little better, and he said, now let me go to Mayapur. And Jayapataka Maharaj was on his way here to prepare for him to come here. We had hopes that he was recovering and we would build his house and he would live here. But that wasn't to be. So then he left, and we brought his pushpa. He told us that if he leaves in Vrindavan, make a pushpa samadhi here. We came here, we dug a hole, and we put his pushpa flowers there, right underneath where his samadhi temple is. And then we started building this. We went through 2 designs too here. We had an initial design, which Rajaram worked on. Then there were some technical difficulties, and then Saurabh provided this design. So other things that are different, well, so much is different. I mean, when my first service here was to build that long building that is called the Chakra building right now, that because we had only the Lotus building, we had the Prasadam pavilion here, we had these where all these shops are on the boundary, we called it the boundary wall building. We had the gate here, front gate was just being finished. Of course, Prabhupada's Bhajan Kutir was there, but opposite Bhajan Kutir right here was a big go down. You've seen, well, maybe you haven't been here that long to see all the development, but you can imagine just pretty much just open fields here. What you see now over to the east over there, pretty open. That's what it was everywhere, except for the Lotus building, the Chakra building, and bit by bit things start to develop. My wife and I, we met and married here in 1980, and we began our Grihastha life here in very simple accommodations. One of our first residences was in the Goshala, which was the first Grihastha residence built by Grihasthas for their residents out there. But it was just one small room, and we quickly started expanding as a family. Then we had lived over here next to the kitchen, and we wanted to have our own place. So we said, all right, let's get a few of us together who needed a place to live, and we began the housing project over there. Ours was the first building there, a Seva building, HP1. So we started over there. That was again an open field, and you can see what's there now. 100 different apartments are there now. So in this way, everything is expanding. And it's my hope, seeing everything expand like this, that we catch ourselves a little bit and think a little bit more about how we're expanding. Sometimes we expand and we grow in a little unplanned way. Things just happen. Now we're at a time where we really need to cooperate, work together, and expand Mayapur, build Mayapur to the beautiful Vedic city that Srila Prabhupada envisioned here in Sri Mayapur Dham, that will attract the world. People will come here, he said, to see the architectural culture, the civilization culture, the philosophical culture, the religious culture. From all over the world, people will come to see this, and not only to see it like in a museum, but to be educated in these things. This was his vision for Mayapur, and a constant festival. This was, he tells about this in Srimad Bhagavatam purport, that we've built our center in Mayapur to have a constant festival of Sankirtan Jagya, and to distribute prasad to millions of people who are hungering for spiritual emancipation. My idea was that I would serve Srila Prabhupada more intimately. I was hoping that I would get more of his association, I'd do more direct service. And I didn't get as much association as I thought I would, because he kept me very busy. He kept me working hard. Not so directly, but through Jayapataka Maharaj. As I said, building this building. Then I started developing the BBT. At that time, the Bengali BBT was just one book, the Gitar Gan. So we developed it. We printed. Prabhupada told us to print these three books that he had. He had written earlier in Bengali. Prabhupada wrote in Bengali for a magazine, I think it was called the Gaudiya Patrika. And he wrote three big articles. He said, please print these. Those became Bhagavan Katha, and what is it? The three different books. I can't. Bhagavan Katha was the first one. Jnana Katha. And then we started the Bhagavad Darshan in Bengali. So he kept me busy with that. One of the nice things I remember doing was building a generator, the first generator big generator. We previously have these little crank-up generators, so whenever the power would go out, somebody would have to run down and crank it up, and there'd be a little switch, and probably would get a light. And then I remember 1977, I think it was, and I had gotten this big 50 kilowatt generator and installed it and hooked up everything in Mayapur. And I was so pleased to go up to Srila Prabhupada's room and say, Prabhupada, you're not hearing anything, because that other generator was really loud. Lights have gone out, everything is on, you have your new generator. So that was very happy. I built some other things for Prabhupada, but mainly I was just engaged here very full-time in his service. We didn't have much in the way of communications. The telephone system, there was no such thing as a cell phone then. We had one telephone. There weren't any, we had one telephone, which sometimes worked. We had one vehicle, which was an old Jeep, with no doors, and there was one motorcycle, and so that was it. We, a few bicycles, but we didn't run around on scooters and all kinds of transportation. We had no cars, we had no cell phones. If you wanted to make a call, you had to call the operator and tell them you wanted to make a call to Calcutta, and 2 or 3 hours later they would connect you to Calcutta. That's the way it worked. And you paid a lot for that too. So it was quite I don't know if you could call it austere. It was simpler, a lot simpler than we have today. But so that was my service. Mainly, then I got into the planning, got into the master planning work, I was going to be building Prabhupada Samadhi, and then they changed the design, so I got into more master plan work and like that. So here we are in Mayapur, and what are we doing here? When I first arrived in Mayapur, I got involved in all the different kinds of services here, and then they wanted me to stay. But I was one of the leading managers in New York ISKCON. I was the acting president there when I came here. The new president was also the GBC. Madhavisa had just arrived, and so when he came to Mayapur, I had come earlier, and they asked him, can I stay? He said, well, I'm just new in New York, I should probably ask Srila Prabhupada. So he went to Prabhupada's room, and I remember Prabhupada was sitting in his room, and I remember that he was disturbed by some news from India, some politics or something that he had heard about, that just, he was commenting about how, he said, we can't expect the whole world to become Krishna conscious, but there should be an ideal place. And I took that to mean our Mayapur, that our Mayapur should be an ideal place. So what does that mean, that it's an ideal place? Well, it should be ideal from the point of view, first of all, of our spiritual life, that we're taking advantage of this Dham. This is Mahaprabhu's birthplace. It is his sacred Dham. It is filled with Chintamani everywhere. Ganges, Mother Ganges is here. Everything is so beautiful. We have to take advantage of it. We have to make sure not to spoil it, not to bring a unsightly, ugly type of development here. We have to keep it clean. We should respect it in every way, and we should take advantage of it spiritually by getting together for Sankirtan, doing Kirtan, doing Harinam, serving the deities, doing Krishna Katha wherever we can. So spiritually we have to take advantage of Mayapur. Then the other ideal is that we are the way of life that we have here. We should try to understand how to live here in a simpler way, a simpler, more natural way of life. Now, this may be difficult for us to understand fully what that means. Does it mean that we have to give up all of our amenities, our refrigerators and lights and fans and air conditioners? Maybe not, but we should use them consciously. We should be aware, conscious of how we're using these things, not go overboard trying to bring our, New York City or Moscow or Paris to here, Sri Mayapur. Let's see how we can live a little simpler, more austerely, and have that consciousness that we're saving Krishna's energy, we're minimizing the environmental impact of what we're doing here. One thing is that a lot of all these kind of fancy amenities that we're used to, they cost money, which means that then we have to find ways to make various kinds of a higher standard of living than we would if we lived a little simpler. So we have to think about that, how to live here. We have to think about how to create community, how to be connected with each other, how to cooperate, work together, understand each other, become friends and know each other. do things together. So that community aspect is there. And then, of course, we have to take what we're doing here, we have to invite the world, and we have to accommodate them. We have to host them. We have to make people very comfortable when they come here, and we have to give them an educational experience. They should walk out of here. People should come here. They should leave differently. They should have experienced something that makes them now think about their own spiritual life and think about what it might be to be a devotee of Krishna and to live as a devotee of Krishna, to take our example and to apply it in their lives. So we have a lot to do here. This is a big challenge. How do we live in this world, and how do we balance our material and spiritual lives? This is every devotee, especially in the Grihastha ashram. I mean, in the renounced ashrams, you don't have a question. But when you're in the Grihastha ashram, you have a family, you have wife, you have children, you have your own needs. That's why we have houses. We are Grihasthas, because we have these type of needs and we need to work them in balance with our spiritual life. So, and Prabhupada gives us many guidelines on how to do that. The first one, of course, is that we remember who we are. We remember that we're the servants of Krishna. We remember our goal in life. We remember that our goal is not to become materially successful for our own needs. If we can be successful materially and then use that to serve Krishna by donating funds for different types of services and activities, that's also wonderful. But in terms of our own needs, we look to see, how is this helping me be a better servant of Krishna? How is it helping me live peacefully? How is it helping me have that standard or that minimum sort of environment that enables me to pursue my spiritual life with enthusiasm? This is something each one of us has to look at that individually. It's not one set formula that it's the same for everybody. It's something you have to look inside and see, am I over-endeavoring or am I in the right balance? Then the other thing is that as a community, we have to really start looking at and more how we can generate and develop our economy here so that we have more of the things that we need with less of the kind of dependency on a external economic environment, having to go here or there to earn funds or to depend on other sources of income. But rather we should see how to build our own internal economy and try to start making the things that we need. It's already started. People are making different kinds of household needs. Food is getting grown more. We have to develop that more and more so that we're keeping it all within. And then we'll see that we'll have more and more abundance, and we'll have more and more, everyone will have more of what they need and less need to go elsewhere to get it. If you look around this development here, you'll see some examples of nice development, but you'll also see some examples of very poor, unplanned development, which for various reasons, which are too complicated to go into, have taken place. So this is where we as a community have to begin to, or continue to really look at how we're developing in our private lives. Because ISKCON is here to do its own development as much as it can, but many of us who come here, we have some ideas of acquiring properties and making our own household independently, privately. Now, when we do that, it's up to us, because the government here is not going to restrain us. We have to find within ourselves the restraint to do things nicely and get help. If we don't know how to do it nicely, then we get help from those who do. Now that you can see, if you don't do that, you end up with things that are too close together. There's no provision for sewage. There's no provision for things being comfortably green grass and trees and so on. So that's the result when people don't look to cooperate and to work within a plan. Join us, be here, you are here, Let's all work together to make Mayapur a beautiful Vedic city and a place of constant joy and festivities for Sri Sri Radha Madhava and Sri Pancharatna and Srila Prabhupada and Lord Nrsimhadev. Hare Krishna.